In this video, we're going over all off-season updates regarding player movement and a potential 5-team mega trade involving Zach Merrett and Christian Petrarca. So let's get into it. G'day guys, ET back from another video. Now, this off-season / trade period is going to be one of the weirdest / most unique of all time, if not the biggest of all time. Let me explain why. For 4 reasons, and those 4 reasons are the salary cap is going up, so teams, especially like St Kilda, are just splashing cash, and they're going to overpay for a few players. New rules, especially in the ruck, and the fact that there's no more sub going into 2026, which could be huge. Teams might select an extra ruckman, an extra midfielder, we don't know yet. It could change a lot of things. This year's draft been heavily impacted by compensation picks, father-son, academy players, and everything, so this draft is going to be super weird. And with Tasmania coming to the draft in 2027, a lot of teams might make different trades or make different additions to their list that they normally probably wouldn't if Tasmania weren't coming into the league. Now, I'm going to start off with the Hawthorn update simply because there is a lot of talk and a lot of speculation around who is going to be involved in the trade package for Zach Merrett, so we're going to go over that really quick. First off, Sam Butler and Ned Reeves were both rumoured to potentially be involved in this Zach Merrett trade. Butler has just signed a new 2-year deal with the Hawks, and Reeves is set to sign another 3-year deal with the Hawks to be the backup ruckman. I think this is huge for the Hawks and a great move re-signing Reeves for 3 more years, simply because the new rules are going to benefit Reeves the way they did before they changed. As we know, or at least Hawthorn fans know, at the start of 2024, Reeves started in the squad over Meek, and then the rules changed, which sort of benefited Meek more, so Meek took Reeves' starting role, but Reeves is a super good player. He's still good. In the VFL, he made the VFL Team of the Year as a starting ruckman, and he's going to be super valuable, especially with these new rules, and the fact that there's no sub next year. So if Hawthorn choose to play 2 ruckmen, it could actually be very beneficial because Hawthorn fans know Lloyd Meek sort of slows down in the last quarter especially, so it could work out well. Like, for example, if Hawthorn have another few injuries to key forwards, and potentially if they verse a team like Fremantle, who have Sean Darcy and Luke Jackson as 2 really good ruckmen, I could see Ned Reeves playing a minimum of 15 games, especially if he stays healthy. And it became official yesterday that James Worpel has signed with the Geelong Cats. Look, I wanted Worpel to stay definitely, but he's from Geelong. He played under 18s at the Geelong Falcons, and yeah, he just wants to go home, which is fair enough. He's been a great servant for the Hawks. He won the BNF in his second year, and in 2023 and 2024 came 4th in the best and fairest. Unfortunately, he had a pretty down 2025 year because he had an ankle injury in round 1, and then another pretty bad corky, which saw him miss 3 or 4 games. I cannot remember exactly, but yeah, the disrespect from Hawthorn fans towards Worpel has been pretty disgusting this year. But yeah, all the best at Geelong, mate. Now, some very quick updates on other players, and then we'll get into the potential 5-team mega trade involving Zach Merrett to Hawthorn. Christian Petrarca has officially requested a trade to the Suns. Look, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. He sort of fits into that midfield well. Him, Rao and Anderson together, plus Tuke Miller, mate, it's a pretty good midfield. One of the best in the game at this point. Obviously, Petrarca can go forward. He's a goal-kicking midfielder. Great pickup. And the Suns have picked 6, 13, and 16, and obviously some future picks, so they got the assets to trade for him, plus Sam Planters want to trade, so I think that could potentially be involved in the 5-team mega trade. Also, Clayton Oliver has been told to explore his options and is likely going to play for another team in 2026. Apparently his exit interview only went for 12 minutes, and they essentially said, look, you're not guaranteed to play in the 1s, and we will most likely play you in the 2s to develop these young kids, and he was not happy about it. I've seen a few things about him moving to the Giants, which would help their clearance issue, and potentially Collingwood. Yes, he's not the youngest player, but he's only about 28, so yeah, for the Pies, it's probably not a bad pickup at the moment. I feel like he might be going off to the Giants. Also, the D's are willing to pay just over half of his contract, which is going to be around $700K, and that's how desperate they want to get rid of him. So I don't know if it's about locker room presence or what's going on. They don't want his bad attitude around the young group of kids coming through. But yeah, obviously he's doing something wrong, and it's time to move on, which is the right call for Melbourne, because I've looked at Melbourne this year. They weren't even close to making finals this year, and they're going to lose Petrarca, so they're definitely not making it next year. So you'd be stupid not to rebuild, get assets for him in a trade, and go from there. So I think it's definitely the right move by the D's. I don't think they handled it as well as they should have, but I think it's the right move at this point in time. Next is a pretty big one. Sam Flanders from the Suns has been offered a 5-year, $900,000 a year from the Saints. He's also had interest from the D's, the Bombers, and the Blues also. But I think, yeah, for St Kilda, this would be a great pickup. They're obviously paying a lot for him, definitely overs. I think the deal was between $800,000 and $900,000 a year, and they're willing to give a pick 7 for him, and I think it would be a great addition. They've already got about 4 players on the team, and I think he would be the 5th over the off-season, and it's a great pickup. He wants to play more on ball. He averaged 30 touches for the Suns in 2024. Yes, I know they're a bottom 4 team, and he's playing off half-back, but still, if you can average 30 over a 20-plus game sample size in 1 year, at 23 years old, I think it was at the time, that's ridiculous. He's going to be a great pickup for the Saints. And if he goes to the Saints, I'm genuinely excited to watch St Kilda football. I'm not even joking. Like, I reckon they're going to make finals without Sam Flanders. So I think if they get Sam Flanders, they got a potential to win an elimination final at minimum. So I think it would be a great pickup for the Saints. Also, Jamie Elliott has signed a new 2-year deal with the Pies for about $650K a year. Good signing by the Pies. He had interest from Gold Coast, and I think he would have fit really well in Gold Coast. But yeah, if the Pies lost Elliott and they're potentially going to lose Brody Mychek as well, yeah, they're guaranteed not to make finals next year just from the age and the fact that they're losing a bit of firepower. So yeah, good pickup. Well, not pickup, but good re-signing by the Pies. The Brisbane Lions, Starcevic has been offered a 5 to 6 year deal at the Eagles for $900K a year. Yes, we know he's had concussion problems, and he just had a concussion in the grand final. He missed 3 months after copping a concussion in round 1 of 2025. I think it's a good pickup. As long as he can stay healthy, it's a good pickup for the Eagles. $900K a year. Look, obviously the salary cap's going up. They need decent players, so it's probably not a bad move. Also from Brisbane, Cal Archie is set to sign with the Adelaide Crows. Great pickup from the Crows. He's a great player, plays up forward, and a 2-time premiership player, so obviously has the finals experience, and I think it's just one of those, not a superstar pickup, but a really good role player, and a really good, in general, a really good pickup for Adelaide, especially with this young team with little finals experience. The last one before we get into the 5-team mega trade is Charlie Curnow to the Swans. It's flying under the radar, and I think there's a 99% chance it's going to happen. Let me explain why. Carlton are in the same position as Melbourne and Essendon. Their best players, or some of their best players, want to leave. The teams were nowhere near finals this year, and they've lost a couple of players already. They're not going to make finals next year, so you have to trade him and get as much value back as you can. The Blues have obviously already lost De Koning and Silvani. Elijah Hollands is been told to look for another club next year, and Sam Doherty's retired. So that's a fair bit of depth just gone already. Yes, I know they have Jagger Smith and Nick Newman coming back from season-ending injuries, but Nick Newman is going to be 33 before the season starts, and Jagger Smith is going to be 19 with not a single AFL game played. So if you're relying on those two to bring you back to the finals, yeah, look, let's be real, it's not going to happen. Also, when I mentioned earlier about Tasmania coming in and teams have to make pretty hard decisions regarding their future in 2 to 3, maybe even 5 years' time, the Blues sort of have to pull the trigger and rebuild now. Otherwise, they're going to be stuck in no man's land for a decade minimum. They've got about 8 more players. They're going to be 29 or 30 at the youngest next season. 31 years old, Zach Williams, Adam Starr, Patrick Cripps. 30 years old, McGovern, Fantasia. 29 years old, Hewitt, Akers, and Picknett. Don't get me wrong, they're still solid players, at least most of them, and they're going to contribute this year. But when you think about it, in 2 years' time when Tasmania come in, these guys are going to be minimum 32 to 35 years old. And yeah, look, if Carlton don't pull the trigger now, get a couple first rounds for Curnow this off-season, they are going to be stuck, and they're going to be in the bottom 4 they're going to be the next generation Essendon in the 2020s and the 2030s, let's be real. So I do think if this Curnow trade goes through with Sydney have pick 9, they could potentially give up a future first and another future second, maybe another player depending on how things go. But if they don't pull the trigger now, they're done. Like, they are seriously done. And let's say they do get pick 9 this year, the De Koning compensation pick is apparently going to be around that as well. So if they get 2 picks inside the top 10 to 15 this year, plus another top 10 to 15 pick in next year's draft for Curnow, and that's probably your best bet. Because if they don't pull the trigger now, like I said, they are going to be stuck, and it's going to be embarrassing because they're in the same situation as Essendon and Melbourne right now. They didn't make the finals with their best players. Their best players want out / already gone, like I said, with De Koning and Silvani, just depth players in general. So if the Blues don't trade Curnow now, while he's 28 in his prime at his highest value, they're done. Now, finally, for the 5-team mega trade involving Zach Merrett and Christian Petrarca, I'm going to keep it short and sharp because this video's already gone for way too long, so let's get into it. We know Merrett wants to go to the Hawks. We now know Petrarca wants to go to the Suns. And we know St Kilda are offering Sam Flanders an undeniable contract of $900K over 5 years. So let's look at the facts. Hawthorn would receive Zach Merrett. The Bombers receive pick 7 and 13. The Suns receive Christian Petrarca. The Demons receive pick 8, the Warple compensation pick, and Jai Sarong. And the Saints receive Sam Flanders. Now, at first, you're probably going to completely disagree with this, but let's just say this is the foundation of a trade. So, a potential future second or just another random pick to even out the deal would probably most likely be the case. And can I just remind people that Merrett and Petrarca are both 30. Yes, they still got a minimum 2 to 3 years of prime footy left, but they're not 25 to 28 in their absolute prime. They're not going to get the ridiculous 2 early first-round picks that most people expect them to get. But now, putting this in a 5-team mega trade, the Bombers and the Demons both get better picks than what they would have doing a straight swap with the team that they're getting their player from. For example, the Hawks and the Bombers do a straight trade. The Bombers are only going to get pick 8 and the Warple compensation, which is going to be around 20, and potentially another player. So now the Bombers have got 2 better picks than what they would have otherwise. And for the Suns, they're not going to trade pick 6 and pick 13 for Christian Petrarca, considering he's 30, coming off a serious injury. But if the Demons are getting pick 8 from Hawthorn, the Warple conversation pick, which is going to be around 20, like I said, and then Jai Sarong, who is looking to move from Hawthorn since he's never going to get a spot in the ones, and with Stephen May leaving Melbourne, Jake Lever, who's pushing 30 now, that's a perfect package for every team, and I think everyone's a winner in this situation. And then you have a quick look at what teams are giving up. Hawthorn giving up pick 8 and the Warple compo. Let's be real, it's going to be more like pick 10 and pick 20, plus Sarong, who is never going to get a game anyway. Yes, he's going to be a great player, but he's not going to get a game. So, yeah, I think it's pretty fair from the Hawks. And then Saints said they were willing to give up pick 7 for Flanders, and then the Suns give up Flanders and pick 13. Flanders obviously being a mid-forward, mostly a forward, so he sort of covers Christian Petrarca, like almost a straight swap. And then, like I said, the Suns had pick 6, 13, and 16. So they're just giving up one pick rather than an earlier pick. Now they can use pick 6 for, I don't know, another trade, and they could swap it out for another pick in next year's draft, something like that. So I feel like everyone in this trade is a winner and gets slightly better return than what they would have otherwise. Like, you could say the Suns are potentially giving up too much, because Flanders is obviously a good player, and then pick 13. But at the same time, Petrarca is going to be an upgrade from Flanders. Plus, they already have pick 6 and 16, and then another, I think, early second round. So, like, they're not going to use all these picks, especially if they're going to plan on being contenders next year. And then the Bombers are getting pick 7, which is obviously one pick better than 8, and then 13 instead of the Warple compo, which is probably going to be closer to 20. Yeah, you could chuck in Henry Husway, but I thought Sarong to Melbourne would make more sense for every party. So the Bombers are getting pick 7 and 13 rather than pick 10 and 20. So, yeah, in my opinion, this actually works out quite well. Obviously, it's probably just the foundation. You're probably going to throw in another second or a late third or just something random just to even it out to make all parties happy. But I think this is definitely the foundation of a super mega trade. Comment down below, what do you think? So I'm very curious to see your thoughts and opinions. Thank you for watching. Comment down below what your thoughts and opinions are on this mega trade and what could potentially happen throughout the rest of the off-season / trade period. Very curious to hear your thoughts and opinions.